everyone. Hello from Manchester. Like Sophia, I'm also from the University of Manchester. Many thanks for the questions, Virginia. I guess I will start by saying or addressing the first question, which is kind of, this correlation or the link between hate speech and misinformation or disinformation, because the work that I'm going to talk about this morning has more to do with hate speech, but very much kind of, I want to show how this very much relates to misinformation and disinformation, especially in social media. I would say that the combination of hate speech and disinformation or misinformation is really harmful and dangerous and can actually contribute significantly to the dissemination of harmful narratives online. And even worse, if you already have existing inflamed environments or volatile environments, then that can even, this combination can make it even worse. And what I'll do is I'm going to talk about a particular project that we did in collaboration with the Center for Information Resilience, where we worked with stakeholders in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is a country where Facebook or Meta is very much relied on as a source of information. And there is a specific case which actually demonstrates how disinformation led to a lot of hate, which in turn led to violence. How this kind of, how it transitioned from an online narrative to something that happened offline in a very violent way. I have some slides in a bit, but I will start first by telling the story of Professor Mayreg Amare. He's a chemistry professor in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, in the northern part of the country, there was something called Northern Ethiopian conflict between 2020 and 2022, which is basically a civil war, also known as the Tigray War. It's a civil war between the Tigray People's Liberation Front on the one side and the Ethiopian federal government on the other. In October 2021, a post was published on Facebook stating that Professor Amare is a supporter of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. It also included details of his address, where he lives, and also accusations that Professor Amare was taking a lot of money and so on. To this day, Amare's family denied these allegations, saying that these are completely baseless and untrue. Despite requests from Amare's family to take down the post from Facebook, nothing happened. It remained on Facebook for 3 or 4 weeks until early November, specifically on the 3rd of November. Armed men on motorbikes shot down Amare in front of his house. While that was happening, there were onlookers, bystanders who wanted to help, but the men on the motorbikes threatened them and said that, don't help him. If you help him, you will also get the same fate. Also, during the whole event, these men on motorbikes kept on referring to the Facebook post. They kept on mentioning the Facebook post, and also they were calling Professor Amare junta, which is a word or a term in that region, which basically is used to dehumanize Tigrayan people. Right. So the reason why I'm saying this is to show how, although, of course, we cannot prove whether these armed men on motorbikes who killed Professor Amare were triggered exactly because of the Facebook post, it's clear that the fact that they were referring to the Facebook posts again and again during the whole ordeal is clear that, they were kind of using that as a source of information. And also they were using a term which was specifically junta, which was specifically used in the online space in Facebook to kind of to trigger kind of hateful emotions in people online by essentially dehumanizing Tigrayan people. So in this case, I think what I'm trying to say is it's clear the link between these three things, right? So you have misinformation, disinformation, or let's just say kind of unproven information which went online on Facebook. This was kind of amplified by algorithms on Facebook. Basically, as you know, if something is trending, then it becomes even more trending because of the algorithms on such social platforms, social media platforms. This led to a lot of hatred online, a lot of hateful narratives online, and then finally, unfortunately, it actually went to the offline space, to the physical space, and led to the murder or the killing of an actual civilian. So now I'm going to, I hope with that narrative, I'm able to show kind of, how these three things are linked. And what I want to talk about now by sharing my screen is the work that we've done to try to detect hate, because for us it's very important to try to detect this hate, because as you can see, this kind of serves as a tipping point, like when you are viewing information or content online. As Sophia said earlier, emotions play a very huge kind of role. It's kind of what actually makes people act kind of violently outside the online space. So I'm going to try to share my screen to share with you, if it allows me, um, how we are trying to what we're trying to do in terms of our research to try to combat hate speech in Ethiopia, particularly. Let me just try that again. Apologies, I cannot find the share button. Wait a minute. There you go. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
okay. So like I said, I'm gonna talk about this project, which is specifically for hate speech detection in Ethiopia. I probably don't have to kind of, reiterate many of these things. We all know that social media it has its positives, allowing people to voice out their opinions and free speech. But then we also know that because of the lack of restrictions and the anonymity it offers, then it can also foster the spread of hate. In Ethiopia, particularly, I think with the story I mentioned earlier, it's clear that there are already volatile kind of political situations. But another problem they have when it comes to hate speech is gendered hate. So essentially, there are cases of technology facilitated gender-based violence, particularly against women. Um, the issue here is that the reason why we worked on this project is that although it is well known, so you might say, well, if it's already well known, what's the point of the project? So although from interviews, it's clear that women are being targeted by hate speech online, and that has led to them being silenced. There was a lack of quantitative data, so they didn't have the evidence base to show the numbers to what extent this is happening to women or to other groups with protected characteristics. So then we embarked on this project where we developed a natural language processing or NLP framework to try to automatically detect hate speech in social media platforms in Ethiopia. Now, the tricky part here is that in Ethiopia, they use a number of languages, actually many languages, but because of kind of visibility reasons, we decided to focus on only 4 languages. So they use English as an official language, but then we also looked at native languages such as Amharic, Afan Oromo, and Tigrigna. And this is tricky because these 3 languages are what we consider low resource languages. That means there's not a lot of training data, there's not a lot of lexicons available. So in our project, we designed an annotation scheme for labeling hate speech, but also a lexicon of keywords of hate related, of hate speech kind of content. And then that also led to the annotation of a data set or a corpus of social media posts. I will skip to the next slide because essentially this summarizes what the annotation scheme is about. So, in many of the work in NLP focus on detecting hate speech as a binary problem. Like, you have a piece of text or let's say a post and then saying, does this contain hate or not? Of course, recently people kind of became more interested in like particular types of hate. Like, for example, is this racist speech or not, or for example, is this misogynistic speech or not, and so on. But what we wanted to develop is a framework that kind of encapsulates all those potential targets of hate, but also the particular, like the language, the type of language used in hate speech. So for example, our scheme would require the annotator to select the target of hate speech. Is it because of the gender? Is it because it mentions particular groups like women or girls and so on? Or is it because of ethnicity? Is it because of religion, race, and disability? So it's kind of encompassing all those potential targets. And then in terms of the type of hate speech, you can go from like an insult, but you can also have something as strong as a threat. Right. So then we're also trying to capture those different types. And also sometimes how the hate speech is delivered is also different. So someone could be making a joke, or using irony or sarcasm, or it can be someone very direct, like using very formal language and so on. So we wanted to capture all these characteristics of hate speech in our annotation scheme. So the result is we have collected a lot of social media posts. Let me skip to that to save some time. We essentially used keywords in our lexicon, which was developed in partnership with stakeholders who know the native languages. Using those keywords, we downloaded posts from Twitter or X, Telegram, and Facebook. And then we had to do a lot of cleaning and pre-processing, because as you know, that led to a lot of posts, millions of posts, and we couldn't really annotate that many. So we had a lot of kind of pre-processing done to them. And this pre-processing included things like, if the post is too short, don't include it, and so on and so forth. Or sometimes the post contains only hashtags. Yeah. And then we annotated them according to our framework. So as you can see here, you can basically, we required annotators to say, highlight this span of text or this word if it is about hate against a certain gender or a certain ethnicity, and so on. So this exercise essentially, when done on those 7,000 posts in total, aggregated across those 3 platforms we were working on, allowed us to obtain the quantitative data, which was exactly what they wanted in Ethiopia. So here, just to summarize the results, you can see that if we look at the higher level types of targets of hate speech, ethnicity is the biggest one, but then that is immediately followed by gender. And if we look at the breakdown of those, then we can see individually women is the most targeted one, but then you also have these ethnicities which, when combined, Oromo, Amhara, and Tigrayan, kind of form the 44.5% here in the ethnic groups which are targets of hate. So I guess to summarize, it was really not surprising. So we already knew from the beginning of the project that Ethiopian women received substantial hate. What was kind of key here in this research is to quantify that, but also we also found out that this hate becomes even worse, or the women became even more targeted if in combination with other characteristics, in particular ethnicity. So this research led to a recommendation paper outlining what could be done rather by the Ethiopian government, how they could update their policy to make sure that the governance frameworks are there for regulating content on social media.